Well, Reds, welcome back to the show. This is the Upper Tier podcast. It's a Carabao Cup final preview. Chelsea versus Liverpool. The Reds are heading down to Anfield South. London hasn't been a happy hunting ground there, I say, for us this season, but hopefully we can turn it around. We do like going to Wembley. We do like a day out and a cup final, of course. Nice to look forward to it and all that, but we are going to bring you the preview tonight for the Carabao Cup final. We're going to bring you lineups. Let us know your thoughts on that. We're going to bring you team news, injury updates, all that kind of stuff. But as always, we've got other stuff to start with as well. So prior to that, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, first of all, the little matter today of the Europa League draw, and we drew Sparta Prague. Let us know your thoughts on that as well. I think it's a good draw for us and good that we're away as well with the first leg and then go back to Anfield. And no doubt when this kicks in, hopefully we should have a few players back and stuff like that. But a really interesting draw. Brighton drawing Roma. That's a tough draw for Brighton. Flip of a coin there on that one. A tough one. Depends what Brighton do in the first leg and stuff like that. Rangers getting Benfica. Going to be very, very, very tough. And West Ham, I'm sure, based on current form and stuff like that at the moment, will be only too delighted maybe to get back to some European League action. League is being tough for them at the moment, but we are getting down now into the business end of the Europa League. You can see teams that are going to be taken out there and stuff like that. Obviously, Leverkusen down the bottom is one that we're all kind of focusing on. Absolutely having a stellar season at the moment in the Bundesliga under Xavi Alonso, a man who we've been heavily linked with the takeover from Jurgen Klopp, but we will see the Bayern Munich situation as it unfolds and various other things like that. Talk he might stay at Leverkusen because he might have his sights set on the Real Madrid job in 2025. So let's see what happens. But I think we'd be reasonably happy, although respectful, of drawing Sparta Prague. So let's see how that goes. But nice to be in a draw again. It felt weird, didn't it, when the Champions League draw came around there earlier on in the month or whatever it was, and kind of they were doing the draw here for the qualifiers versus the drop downs, and kind of we weren't involved in the draw. It felt kind of weird. So it was nice to be in a draw today. And no doubt we'll probably progress there. I'd imagine we will. The other thing I wanted to bring up today as well, of course, Harvey Elliott, 100 games for Liverpool. I can't believe it's 100 games. I really can't. How quickly they ratchet up, don't they? Harvey Elliott, to me, still just a kid in the team and stuff like that and all. But 100 appearances for Liverpool, it's incredible. And fair play to him. And also, Liverpool's first team as well to score 100 goals this season. So that's always nice to see as well, that we're still fairly prolific in front of goal, although we still have a few demons at the back. So really, really, really good from that point of view as well. Zane is in. Big up, Zane. How are you, my friend? Sparta Prague, Carabao were the best possible draws. Yeah, do you know something? I wasn't really bothered. I don't know about you, Zane, but I wasn't really bothered about who we drew. I probably didn't want to draw Leverkusen at the moment. They're in a rich vein of form. I think maybe if we can hold that off either to a final or, or just before it, maybe would be fine. You know what I mean? So, but I think it's I don't fear anyone. Like, I would have been quite happy to get Roma. I would have been quite happy to get AC Milan. I don't worry about any teams at the moment. We're, once we have that tie at Anfield, we don't have to worry about anyone. Acers is in. Leverkusen 1, Mans 1. There's some connection there, isn't it? Alonso, Klopp, 1-1. Let's see what happens there. Let me know, Acers, as well. That's not a full-time show. It's not. It's probably only kicked off, has it? Not too sure what minutes, and I haven't been following up and getting ready for the podcast and stuff like that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to get people's thoughts on this as well. This came out today. I'm going to go full screen on this so I can see it. But this is debuts that Jurgen Klopp has given in the Premier League since he took over. There's 45 in total. And from what I can gather, when you look at this, it's half-time. Appreciate that, Aces. Half-time, I'd say Leverkusen going to win. But it's 45 in total there that he's given debuts to in the Premier League, and it's the most of any club in that period. Man City have done, I think, 24. I was looking at today, either 24 or 25, I think, and stuff like that. But you look of those 45 that are there, 22, I think, are still at the club, which is a huge number. When you think Man City in that same time period have done either 24 or 25. I wonder how many are still there. 4, maybe 5. I'm not too sure. I didn't look into it that deep. But it got me thinking when I look at this list and you look at the players that he's given debuts to and stuff like that. And there's arguments back and forward about good enough, not good enough, filling a gap, all these different things that we had to do. It's an interesting list when you look at it because it kind of does demonstrate at times the greatness of Klopp as a manager, having to bring these players in, bed them in, and use them at key moments and stuff like that. But what it also said to me as well is it kind of stinks a little bit of the lack of backing at times that the manager got in key moments in seasons where we just missed out. So it was when I looked at it, it was really positive in terms of being a manager and a coach and being capable of doing that. But in terms of if you're at the high end of elite sports and you're trying to win trophies and put silverware in the cabinet and stuff like that, it shows the struggles that we went through at times with some of the players that we had to kind of bed in because we didn't go that extra player in the market, or we didn't go those extra 2 signings that we should have got, or we didn't do in January what we should have done, or whatever it is, So let me know your thoughts on this. But 45 debuts he gave in the Premier League, which is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Right. Let's get in. Acers, first of all, is telling us Leeds just missed an open goal. There you go. Carabao Cup Final press conference review, as we always do. And I have to say, this man, Pep Linders, got an awful lot of heat last year when kind of things came undone, if you like. And there was a lot of talk about releasing the book on coaching and all that kind of stuff and all. And he took an awful lot of flack last season from elements of the fan base. And I have to say, the more I listen to this guy in press conferences and stuff like that, the more impressed I get with him. I've said it a number of times this season on the podcast. I find it very intriguing, the information and the attention to detail that he goes through, and his mindset and his thinking in key moments. I think is very impressive. And he has impressed me this season, and kind of, I wouldn't say he's won me around again because I didn't lose all faith. I know the fan base at times was going ballistic on it with the book and everything else. And, I think at times last season when things came undone and stuff like that, we were kind of hitting out and looking for reasons to get on top of certain situations and all that kind of stuff. And he became at times enemy number one and stuff like that. So I definitely think I do really like I'd love to be able to be a fly on the wall of a training session. And hey, we might get that with this network documentary. But I think if it's really in there and it's in depth and stuff like that, I think people will have a very different view of Pep Linders. I think he's I think as a coach, I think in terms of preparation and all that kind of stuff, I think he's meticulous in the way you listen how he talks and stuff like that. So big up Pep Linders. But let's go down through the press conference and stuff like that. So he obviously confirmed that Dominic, Darwin and Mo Salah will all face late fitness tests, see if they're available, while Curtis Jones is ruled out. He said Curtis has a sprain with a muscle on his ankle and will be out until around the international break. Trent more or less the same. Jota more or less same. Everything after the international break, basically. And then kind of made the joke. The joke that he made was, we're saying after the international break because we actually we're not sure when they're coming back, which is kind of a funny way to approach it, really, after doing it. What I did like about his conversation today, and I touched on it, I think, on one of the podcasts this week and stuff like that, that when you get these injuries, although we don't want them, we don't want our squad depleted, and we'd love to be going down to London on Sunday with the full squad intact, full complement of players, really strong bench with options, all that kind of stuff. But he did make the point that they can only deal with the 11 or the 15 or the 16 or whatever it is that they have. And that's how they prepare for the game. But he also made the point, which I really liked as well, that if we hadn't have gotten some of these injuries this season, that, every cloud has a silver lining somewhat. So would we have seen the emergence of Conor Bradley? Would we have seen the emergence of Joe Gomez and the form that he has shown? You know, Ben Doak earlier in the season, Bobby Clark, all these guys coming on and stuff like that. So would we have seen them and being able to kind of, Jarrell Kwanzaa is another one as well, So I like the point that he was making, that, and it kind of rang true with us as well, that when you think about a lot of the injuries we've had now up until the last few weeks, we've been able to cover with a suitable deputy. So Robbo and Costas went there. We put Joe in there, and Joe played brilliant. Conor Bradley has been an absolute revelation, which is fantastic for us. And he made the point then about how strong the academy is, and we don't realise it sometimes when you're going through prolonged periods where you don't get a lot of injuries and your side is reasonably settled. So props off to the academy at that point of view. Now, I think we still have issues in the medical department and stuff like that, because I think we pick up too many injuries, I think, potentially in training and stuff like that, He was given props, obviously, to Queeveen as well, going on goals and stuff like that, and what a great job he has done for us and stuff like that, and how good a deputy he is and all that kind of stuff, which was really cool. He said, I'm facing Chelsea again so soon after beating them 4-1. He said, they had instability at the beginning of the season. A lot happened. How can you expect them to perform straight away? They are growing. The manager is doing an unbelievable job. So he's giving props to Chelsea there. We will get to talk about Poch more when we go to look at the lineups, because the lineups is an interesting place when you think about Poch as a manager and stuff like that. Forget about all the other stuff about being a serial loser and all that kind of stuff, and that, Klopp has his number, and the last two finals we faced Chelsea, we beat them, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that goes out the window, because now we're going into a situation where we've got two very different teams from those two cup finals and stuff like that, and especially with the injuries we're incurring and stuff like that. And so we'll talk about it during the lineups as well. And again, if you're in the chat there, folks, if you want to drop your lineups in, who you think your lineups are going to be and stuff like that. But it sounds like we could potentially have Dominic, Darwin, and Mo Salah in some shape or form available for Sunday. Now, whether he decides to pull the trigger and push them in, or spring them from the bench, or whether he uses a mixture from the start, we'll discuss it in the lineups when we go through. But let us know what you think your starting lineup is. He added, a good final always starts with respect of the opposition and defend all we have. Our one target is to bring joy to the fans. If you want to describe our philosophy, it is to give joy and emotions to the fans. Now, you bring joy and emotion to the fans by what? Playing good football, scoring goals, and winning trophies. That's generally how it is. So I think he's talking the same talk here, What else did he say? He said success to him means growing as a team, but that Liverpool Football Club is made for major trophies, and each year we should fight for them. That should be the target, and that is what we try to do. Absolutely. I think no fan would disagree with that. He was asked about Jim Ratcliffe's comments on learning from Liverpool and Man City to overtake them in a few years. He said, is that a compliment from United? That says everything. No. In the summer, no one can replace Klopp. The past shows already difficult transitions. They don't have to replace Jurgen Klopp. They have to find a good manager, because no one can replace Jurgen. And that's true. And I think that's something that we have to focus on. And I think as we get closer to the end game in May or June or whenever it is, I think that will kind of ring true. That we're not trying to replace Jurgen Klopp. We're trying to bring in a manager now, maybe with fresh ideas, different thinking on the squad, different formations, different play, different training, lots of different things and stuff like that. You're not just going to bring someone in that's just going to slide under the desk into Jurgen's office, and everything will just go ahead as gegenpress and everything else that comes with it and stuff like that. So there will be a settling in period, no doubt about it. He said, with a number of youngsters set to feature in the final, as a former youth team coach, Linder said, the dream was to prove the world it is possible even on this level. Not just to prove you can bring young players in, but ones that can win you trophies. I am really proud. I always believed in it. We create this culture of a one club mentality. So that's something I've often heard United fans talking about. Some of the troubles that they have at the moment is that there's a philosophy on the senior team, and that philosophy doesn't necessarily trickle down through all the junior teams in the academy. And I think what Linders here is saying, and I've heard that from United fans now, that's not from me. I think what Linders is saying here, that there's a philosophy of play at Liverpool in the senior team level, and that philosophy trickles down right through the age groups in the academy. So when it comes time for a player to step up, they're stepping up into a system that they're probably very familiar with. And it's only a case of their mentality and strength and will to succeed. Everything else is kind of taken care of. So yeah, interesting. That's why I love listening to his press conferences. I actually find his press conferences way more interesting actually than Jurgen's press conferences, to be honest. Because he tends to give you a lot more detail, and he tends to break things down for you, sometimes to the point where sometimes I wonder, is he giving out too much detail? But yeah, on the side, winning 5 of 6 games since Klopp's announcement to leave, he said, look at all the boys in the leadership group, the 25, 26-year-olds who want to win, and the ones who haven't won anything yet with Liverpool, given everything to win, despite the manager saying he is leaving. We are stable enough to deal with it. Yeah, so what he's talking about there is he's talking about Jurgen's announcement hasn't derailed the team. Obviously, we've been upset along the way now with injuries and all this kind of stuff and all. But his announcement hasn't changed anything in terms of the desire within those players. And probably, if anything, it's raised the desire within those players to go and achieve something. So, yeah, that was it. That was the press conference from him. And I thought it was very, very, very interesting to listen to. I do find them very, very interesting. So there you go. That's the press conference. Right, let's get into this. If you look at a little bit of form at the moment, hey, all big up. How are you, my friend? Roll me one Kenobi. Roll me one Kenobi. I like that. I like that. You're a fan. I like that. Love that. But welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, really, really important. If you look at form at the moment, if you look at Chelsea's form at the moment, slightly indifferent. 2 draws, 2 wins, and 2 losses. So kind of a mixed bag for them. And it's an interesting one for Chelsea as well, because Chelsea can show up against Man City and look absolutely awesome, and probably could have won that game. I know Man City had kind of ratcheted up a bit and all, and Haaland had a day off and all that kind of stuff in terms of his form. But I think Chelsea looked really, really good in terms of the way they counter-attacked the chances that they had. And I think we discussed it with Ian as well afterwards in our WhatsApp group, and I think it was the manager kind of cost them a little bit there with some of his changes and stuff like that. And what we have kind of seen, if you look at the form of Chelsea there across all competitions, you're seeing a side where changes are being made and that don't necessarily, dare I say, make sense. And to us as outsiders, when you look at them, they don't always make sense. But obviously, Poch is in there coaching and training with these players day in, day out. So he knows the ins and outs of these players. But Ian has always made the point to me as well, and I make the point as well, if you have a player who's in form, that player should hang on to that position. And that position should have to be kind of won back off him. And I know kind of sometimes you'll set up different players for different formations against different teams. And that's, if it's tactical, that's kind of different. But you get the feeling with Poch sometimes he's putting players on display because he's just not too sure or whatever it is, For us, it's 5 wins out of 6. The loss, of course, coming at Arsenal. But we've been pretty good in our League Cup form. Our League Cup form has been excellent. So this is a huge game. It would be lovely to put a piece of silverware in the cabinet this early, especially with Jurgen announcing that he's leaving. But it's going to be a difficult one. These games are very difficult. I know we're going in on the back of the 4-1 win and stuff like that. Beating Chelsea 4-1 for me tends to be an anomaly. Sometimes things just go right for you on the night. Sometimes Chelsea's setup just isn't right, or it just doesn't fall for them and they get obliterated and stuff like that. But that's typically not the norm. If you look at our history against Chelsea Football Club, the matches tend to be tight chess matches that require a lot of tactical nous to figure out the way things go and stuff like that and all. And I think we're going to really have to be on it on Sunday and really at our best. The question is, with the players that are potentially coming back with late fitness tests, the likes of Dominic, the likes of Mo, the likes of Darwin, do you put them straight in? Are they ready to go straight in? Do they have 90 minutes or potentially 120 minutes in their legs coming back at this stage? We don't know. So it'll be interesting to see what way we line up and what way Chelsea line up as well. Do they line up with the Caicedo Enzo double pivot? They tend to sort of play. They tend to try and drive the game quite narrow, allowing that space then for Chilwell and for Malagusto to come up those wings and open up that space. We tend to like to play a little bit wider out there and spend more time out there, and that really staying on the width. But we need to be driving more balls into box, and we need to be more purposeful in our set pieces, corners, that type of thing. Because if you look at our corners as of late, I know we scored off them the other night and stuff like that, but when we started getting balls into the box more regular in that game the other night against Luton, we started getting more joy and scoring more goals, and that's what happens. I think more often than not, if you look on the left side with Luis Diaz, if he's playing with Joe Gomez at times likes to come in a little bit more narrow with the ball, isolates Luis Diaz out there on his own, and he can be taken out of games. You've seen it the other night in the first half where he wasn't getting much joy at all. I think it was Mengi, I think is the defender off Luton, kind of had him worked out and stuff like that, switching in from left, cutting in. Whereas I think if we can get those overlapping runs with Robbo and stuff like that, I think it'll open up a little bit more for us. And the more balls we put in the box, the more opportunity we have to score, I think. Whereas if we're just cutting inside and flashing shots, I think we're kind of less successful that way. And I think it became more apparent if you look at the two halves against Luton. Romney One Kenobi is in. As a neutral, I think you guys will beat Chelsea comfortably. Do you really? Interesting. Listen, I'd be delighted if that's the case. I don't watch the Premier League. I prefer La Liga and only watch the Cup finals. Interesting. Tell me this: who is your team in La Liga? Who do you tend to follow in La Liga then, if that's what you follow? Interesting. Get your thoughts on it. So yeah, let's get into a bit of team news, and then we'll look at lineups and stuff like that. So obviously for Chelsea at the moment, Badiashile is out with a groin, Reece James with a toe, Wesley Fofana, of course, with a knee, Cucurella with an ankle, but there's talk that Cucurella may be available. Now, does he go in? It looks a little bit this season where Poch hasn't necessarily fancied him, or maybe because he's absent, Poch has found a different system or something like that. Soon to be 40-year-old Thiago Silva, who actually has lost all three of his domestic cup finals with Chelsea. Interesting to see, does he go in there? I'm not too sure. Petrovic in goal could retain the gloves ahead of Robert Sanchez, now back from a knee problem and personal issues. Carney Chukwuemeka is out with the ankle. Leslie Ugochukwu, I think is how you pronounce it, is out with a toe. And of course, Romeo Lavia, a target for us last summer as well, has also been out with a toe injury. So they have their injuries there as well. But, you know, the key ones there, obviously, Badiashile come in and has done very well. Reece James will always be a loss on any team, an outstanding player. Wesley Fofana. Big players in there that are missing as well, in fairness, you know. For us, for the Reds, obviously the big one, Alisson Becker. But I think generally, I think he would have stuck with Quavine anyway. You've seen from previous cups and all that kind of stuff. Quavine was the cup guy and stuff like that. So Becker is out with a hamstring. But obviously what it does is if anything was to happen to Quavine, we're looking then to Adrian on the bench, and that comes with its own kind of problems. Trent is out with a knee, Ben Doak out with a knee, Stefan Bojetic out with a calf, Joel Matip ACL, Diogo Jota knee, What a freaky accident that knee was from Jota the other day. Thiago Alcantara, a muscle issue. Curtis Jones is obviously the ankle stroke shin. Um, and then obviously the questions over Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez, and Dominic Szoboszlai, whether they make it as well, potentially. So let's see what happens there. But it's quite a list. If you look at Chelsea, then Chelsea are going in with Petrovic, Gusto, Disasi, Colwell, Chilwell, Caicedo, Fernandez, Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher, Sterling, and Jackson. So let us know in the talk as well. Do you think that's what they will go win with? Do you think he might change it up? Would we see Mudryk, Madueke? Do we see any of these players coming in to change up? Will Poch tinker with it the way he's been tinkering all year? And how would Chelsea fans feel about that? For us, there's Kelleher, Bradley, Konate, Van Dijk, Robinson. I think that kind of picks itself. Maybe a conversation over Joe Gomez, but again, I think the way Joe plays, and I'd love to see Joe Gomez score a goal for Liverpool, and no better than a final to do it. But I think he'll probably go with Robbo, because I think there's a better synergy there with Robbo and Luis Diaz. And I think there's more opportunity if Diaz learns that a team is 11 players and not one. It might give Robbo more joy to put balls into the boxes to make it a little bit more dangerous. Midfield, Endo in the six, of course, who's been absolutely outstanding and doesn't get talked about enough, except in Liverpool circles. McAllister on the left, I think. If he plays Gravenberch, this is what causes this problem, because Gravenberch kind of goes over there, and Mac might go to the right. And I think Mac is less effective on the right than what he is on the left. I think the left is his natural position, coming in from that side and supporting that wing play and all. The Los Blancos, of course. Good choice. Good choice. Sanchez is a terrible goalkeeper. If Chelsea wanted a good goalkeeper, we're selling Ajay Lunan. Could happen. Could happen. Big up Dave. Check out Dave's LFC chats. Let's go Reds. Absolutely. Lovely Dave to look forward to a final as well, isn't it? In Wembley and stuff like that. And just the pressure of a final and wanting to win a bit of silverware, and of course not wanting to lose. But taking the heat off as well. A break from the Premier League is always nice as well. So big up. Check out Dave's channel as well. Does great stuff out there. So let's have a look at these lineups. Let's see what we think. I've kind of gone with a lineup there, obviously, that includes the guys that are on the peripheral in terms of fitness tests and stuff like that and all. I'm not necessarily thinking he may or may start with all of them. I'm not too sure. He may introduce them from the bench. I'm not too sure. But we know what the change will be. I think the back four is probably bang on. We know Quivine is bang on. I don't think there's any major argument there. I think you might have an argument for Gomez over Robbo, but again, I'm not too sure if the Gomez-Diaz relationship will yield enough against Chelsea in terms of the Gomez or the Robbo-Diaz relationship in terms of creating more going in there. And I think the Luton game was a good example of that, so let's see what happens there. Mac on the left, Endo in the middle on the 6. This is one there where we're going to have to be careful with this midfield as well, because with Chelsea deploying that double pivot of Caicedo and Enzo, and then the three boys in front, we can get overrun in midfield if we're not really, really careful and not on it. So it's really, really important that those supports of Robbo and Connor Bradley sometimes inverting in to make sure we don't get overrun, and giving us that kind of, not that extra man, but balance it out with what they're trying to do and stuff like that, I think is really, really important. I think if Dominic doesn't make it, then I think Gravenberch goes in, Ryan Gravenberch. But I think we need to keep him on the right. I don't want Mac over on the right. I think it negates what he brings. He's much better on the left. And then I think if Salah doesn't make it, you're looking at Harvey. And if Darwin doesn't make it, then you're looking at Gakpo. I think that's the way it's probably going to break down. It's pretty obvious. We're not going to have potentially a huge amount from the bench, but I think if these three boys make it even to the bench, I think it would give the team a huge lift. We know Salah does like these big stages to do his thing, so he would be pivotal for us, and does like a goal against Chelsea as well. I think the chaos of Darwin could cause trouble within that Chelsea defence. The Sassy and Colwell can get wrapped up in him somewhat. And I'd like to see Luis Diaz not so much keep on cutting in from left to right, but actually deploying that. They make more runs down to the line and cut the ball back in from there. A couple of times if you want to cut in and fire off shots and see and stuff like that and all. But try and balance it out with trying to create something for others as well at times. Sometimes with Luis Diaz, he just hangs on to the ball just that too long, really. It needs to be releasing it better. Now, if that release is into the box to someone, fine. If it's not, release it to Robbo on those overlapping runs. We've been so successful over the years with Robbo with the overlapping runs. That's going to be key for us. But yeah, that competition, midfield for me, that's where we're going to have to nail it at the weekend. We're going to have to put down a marker there. McAllister's going to have to be on it. If it's Dominic or if it's Ryan, whoever it is going to have to be on it. Endo's going to be key. And I'm really looking forward to that matchup with Endo because this will be a real test. Because for a number of these players, they won't have experienced Wembley on a final like this as well. And certainly for Chelsea, they're in the same boat as well. But we do have some players who have done that. Van Dijk has done it, Quivin has done it, Robbo has done it, Salah certainly has done it. So we do have a selection of players in there that can give us that nucleus of that experience of a cup final at Wembley because it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I'm sure there'll be nerves there on Sunday walking out for some of these boys, especially Connor Bradley and stuff like that. What a huge occasion it is for him. If he goes with Connor, I'm thinking he probably will. I hope he does. The way Connor played against Chelsea in that 4-1 was outstanding, and if we can harness a bit more of that, that would be really cool. Looking at Chelsea, obviously Raheem Sterling out there on the left, bringing that bit of experience. Conor Gallagher, we know what he can do, making those powerful runs, linking up the play, but also can fire a shot from distance, and we're going to have to be aware of that. Cole Palmer, we know what he's all about. He's been a revelation this season. He's probably been Chelsea's best player this season. Really, really talented boy, but again, won't have felt this Wembley situation, but really cool for him coming in there and stuff like that. I think he'll try and drag it in and make it narrow to open up that space for the likes of Gusto and stuff like that. Sterling the same on his side to just open up those channels for the likes of Chilwell to join the attack, Gusto to join the attack, and this is what we see that they do. But what that does for us is very clever on the counter or on the press and stuff like that. Those areas are going to be wide open. So if you think about it, if you've got Mo Salah there matching up to Ben Chilwell, if Chilwell is coming down those channels, that opens up that. And that's where Quevin's going to have to be really on his game as well. If you look at Quivin the other night, a couple of times he picked out players really nice with balls out and kicks and stuff like that. But a number of times he was just kicking balls out and he was just finding Luton players. I think he needs to be a bit more purposeful in his distribution at times, like what we see with Alisson. You know, those quick kickouts where he hit Mo or stuff like that. And even when Van Dijk picks up the ball off Quivin, just looking for those runs and stuff like that. And we'll get them out of Harvey as well. But obviously Harvey is not as physical as Mo in terms of strength on the ball and stuff like that. No. So, but that should be interesting. I think you look at that pivot there with Enzo and with Caicedo, that double pivot, the way they move in there in that midfield and stuff like that. We're going to have to be really, really aware of that. I think at the back, I think the Sassy is one that can be got at. I think although he has shown signs recently of how good he potentially can be, I still think he's still at times to me still looks a little bit awkward as a central defender in the Premier League. And sometimes, you know, kind of gets himself into a little bit of trouble and stuff like that. I think Gusto's a bit of a hothead and stuff like that, so you could probably target him. Might be able to get an early yellow card out of that boy or something like that, and then he'd have to be so careful. Colwell, we know how good he is. Let's just wait and see him. He has had his moments this season, but we know what a player he can be. But again, just he can be got at from those runs and stuff like that. And also, this is how I think it's going to match up. Jackson up front tends to need a lot of chances before he hits the net. But again, he's another player who's kind of beginning to find a bit of form, but lacks a lot of confidence in himself. I think there's a bit of a player there, but at times there's just a lack of confidence in him. But the ones I would be looking for is the ones who know the score in this kind of final situation, the Gallaghers of this world, the Sterlings of this world. You know, if Thiago Silva was in there, you know, those kind of things. Chilwell. These are the kind of players that they will be drawing on. Although this is a League Cup and a lot of people, write it down and stuff like that and all. This is a big outing. This is a big outing. It's really, really important. Klopp is leaving. Poch, 5 years at Spurs, never won a trophy and stuff like that. He's 90 minutes or 120 minutes away from potentially doing that and shutting down the talk and the haters and all that kind of stuff. So this is a huge event for both teams. This is not to be played down in any way, shape, or form. Dave is in. I think it will be close, maybe 1-0 to the Reds. Yeah, it's always close with Chelsea, isn't it? Especially in these finals. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we got extra time. And hopefully not penalties. I don't think I can take any more of that. Roll me on. Roll me one, Kenobi. I heard about Bradley, really good right back, and his goal against Chelsea was neat. Yeah, he's been. I spoke about it earlier in the podcast. He's been a revelation since he came in, and sometimes you look at these injuries and stuff like that, and as I said earlier, it's great that we've uncovered that he's now a legit option in there in the team and stuff like that, even when Trent comes back. So it's fantastic from that point of view. Back in again. Endo sitting in that six with McAllister a bit forward will give Chelsea problems. Yeah, absolutely. But I think they just, again, as I said, that double pivot of Caicedo and Enzo, we can't let kind of Endo be isolated and be overrun and bypassed. And generally, he's very good at that, so hopefully it won't. Gusto is their weak link. From what I've seen of him, he crumbles when he's pressured. Yeah, he can be enticed into a card quite early. He can be a little bit reckless, but I think in recent times he's shown some of his quality as well. And I think we have to be aware of that as well. I think we can't think of this game in terms of the 4-1. I think we have to think of it more in terms of the other battles we've had with them over the years, these chess matches where both teams just trying to break each other down but kind of cancel each other out as well. But I think it's going to be a tight one. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to extra time, and we get a winner in injury in extra time or something like that. But I think it'd be close. I'm going to go for a Liverpool 2-1. I think Chelsea will probably score. I think they have enough quality in that forward line, and with the support of Enzo and Caicedo as well, I think they probably have a goal in them. But depending on who we deploy, if we get the green light on Salah, if Darwin comes in, if Dominic is back, there's an argument to include them or not include them with the boys that have come in. And again, how much time you can get out of them and all that kind of stuff. And if you put them in there, is there the chance again, if you rush them back like this talk with Trent and all that kind of stuff, do you potentially re-injure them again and then we lose them for other games coming up and stuff like that? So really, really important that whole sub situation is managed carefully on Sunday as well, but not to deplete us to the point where we don't have that chance of winning the game and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be an excellent game. Always is. Love a final. Nothing better than sitting down on a Sunday and watching the final at Wembley. It's great. And those who say they don't care about it are those who just don't understand football. Aces is in. Leicester 1-0 up against Leeds. Romy 1 Kenobi. I'd say 2-1 Liverpool as well. I think Sterling will score for Chelsea and Diaz and McAllister to score for Liverpool. I will take that all day. Give that to me now. Absolutely. That's it, folks. Short and sweet. As I said, 2-1 Liverpool is the prediction. Again, once we're done, let us know as well. You can continue to comment in terms of your lineups, and we'll bring further news if there's any other breaking news of players that either make it or don't make it. But certainly Sunday at 2:00, we will be waiting with bated breath for the lineups and all that kind of stuff to see who made it and who's on the bench and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully, Reds, we can put a trophy in the cabinet nice and early and give the gaffer a partial send-off present before he heads off. Until next time, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, and drop a like on the video, and we will talk to you again real soon. Let's go, Reds. Shelbourne 2, Rovers 0 from Macers. That is the last comment. Cheers, folks.